I still remember the exact moment my life split in two before and after that phone call. It was 1:00 a.m. in Chicago. A night wrapped in the dull hum of hotel air conditioning and the fatigue of another endless work trip. I had just finished a bland sandwich from room service and was staring at the ceiling, thinking about home, out of habit more than anything. I dialed my wife's number. Megan didn't answer. Instead, another voice did familiar. Casual. Completely out of place. "Hey, man," said Dylan. "My best friend. My closest friend for over a decade. She's busy right now. She'll call you later." There was laughter in the background. Her laughter. Light. Carefree. The kind I hadn't heard directed at me in months. I froze, staring at the phone as if I'd dialed the wrong number, as if reality had decided to play a cruel joke. My voice, when it came out, didn't sound like mine. "Keep her," I said quietly. "She's your problem now." Then I hung up. The silence that followed was the cleanest sound I'd ever heard. People like to think they'd explode in a moment like that, yelling, smashing things, demanding explanations. I didn't. I just lay there, staring at the ugly art on the hotel wall, feeling something inside me harden and fall into place. I wasn't broken yet. Not even close. But I knew something had died quietly in that room, the version of me who believed that love was simple and loyalty was a given. The next morning, I felt oddly clear-headed. Too clear. I went through my routine like a machine shower. Tie. Badge for the conference. Everyone around me looked tired or bored, but I felt almost calm. I'd spent the night replaying everything the late nights Megan called networking events. The mysterious book club. The perfume that wasn't the one I'd bought her. It all fit now. Like puzzle pieces, I'd been too naive to connect. For years, I'd thought I was the steady one, the dependable husband who kept things running while she chased her creative ambitions. I never thought to question her stories about clients and campaigns. I was too trusting, too comfortable. That's what betrayal feeds on: routine and trust. During the conference break, I checked her Instagram. A new post, her coffee beside her laptop, captioned "grinding and building empires." I almost laughed. The picture looked so polished, so curated. Like everything she did, behind that filter, she was with him. I didn't text her, didn't call again. I just stared at the photo until the image blurred, and then I closed the app. The flight home 2 days later felt surreal. The city below looked like a model tiny cars, tiny lives, tiny problems. I wasn't angry yet. Anger would come later. Sharp and loud. For now, I was cold, methodical, almost detached. My life had turned into a logistical problem to be solved, and that I could handle. When I unlocked our front door, the smell of her perfume still lingered in the air. The house looked exactly the same: neat, warm, comfortable. The cats, Mr. Whiskers and Colonel Fuzz, greeted me like nothing had changed. I envied them for that. On the kitchen table sat a note: "Hope the conference went well. Leftover lasagna in the fridge. Love you. Love you." I stared at the words for a long time before tossing the note into the trash. That night, I opened my laptop and began retracing every small inconsistency that had once felt meaningless. The book club she claimed met every Thursday. The work trips that never lined up with her calendar. The nights she came home too cheerful after client dinners. I pulled up our shared calendar. Then her social media, cross-checking times and locations. The results hit like slow-motion punches. A Thursday night book club coinciding with a photo tagged at a downtown bar with Dylan. Another night, she was supposedly at a PR event. She'd posted a fun night with friends at someone's backyard fire pit. Dylan was tagged again. I opened her drawer. Receipts neatly folded in an envelope labeled expenses. Hotel charges. Restaurants for two. Lingerie purchases I'd never seen evidence of. Each piece of paper was a confession she hadn't meant to make. I took photos of everything. Not out of pettiness, at least that's what I told myself, but because I needed to see it all. Proof that I wasn't crazy. That I hadn't imagined the distance growing between us. By midnight, I sat on the floor surrounded by the debris of our marriage. The cats watched me from the couch, eyes half-lidded. judgmental as ever. Yeah, I muttered to them. I missed the signs. I laughed, then quietly at first. Then harder until it wasn't funny anymore. There's a special kind of pain in realizing the person you trusted most has been lying to you, and the person you called a brother has been smiling to your face while stabbing you in the back. But there's also a strange power in that clarity. Once you've lost everything, you stop being afraid of anything. I cleaned up, tucked the receipts away, and went to bed. She texted around, 1, 2, 3, 0, hope you got home safe. Miss you. I didn't respond. Lying in the dark, I thought about the moment Dylan answered her phone, the calmness in his voice, the laughter behind him. That sound echoed in my head like a trigger. Tomorrow, I'd start putting the pieces together. Not to save the marriage. That was already over. But to understand just how deep the betrayal went and maybe, just maybe, to decide what to do about it. I wasn't planning revenge. Not yet. That would come later. Slowly. Deliberately. But in that quiet house, with the smell of her perfume still clinging to the air, I made a silent promise to myself. This wouldn't end with me broken. If they wanted to play games, I'd learn the rules and I'd win. When Megan left for work the next morning, I waited until I heard her car pull out of the driveway. The house went quiet, too quiet. Even the cats seemed to sense the tension, watching me from the hallway like tiny, furry witnesses. I sat at the kitchen table for a few minutes, just staring at the coffee steaming in my mug, thinking about everything I'd discovered so far. Then I got up and started searching. I wasn't looking for closure anymore. I wanted proof undeniable. Inarguable evidence that what I'd heard that night wasn't some fevered dream. Maybe that's what happens after betrayal. You stop trusting even your own memory. Megan's home office was small, tucked into a corner of the guest room. Her desk looked neat, too neat. The kind of neatness that says I cleaned up because I didn't want anyone to find what was here before. I opened drawers, checked folders, scanned her corkboard. Most of it was work stuff, client notes, sticky reminders, motivational quotes about ambition and self-belief. But sitting on the edge of the desk was her planner, pink, leather-bound, gold edges, her pride and joy. I flipped through it. Color-coded entries filled every week, green for work meetings, blue for personal appointments, pink for her book club, Thursday after Thursday. The same pattern, even a few Saturdays. Every one of them marked book club with the girls. I took photos of every page. Then I cross-referenced those dates with her Instagram posts on my phone. Within minutes, the pattern emerged. Bar photos, dinner selfies, and late-night group shots tagged with Dylan and others I barely recognized. Not once had she posted anything, even remotely connected to a book. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, but from focus. Every timestamp, every caption, every fake networking night was a brick in the wall she'd built between us. Then I found the receipts. She kept them in a folder labeled 2024 expenses, ironic. Really, neatly arranged, stapled, and dated. There were dinner charges for 2 at expensive restaurants, a hotel booking at the Riverside Inn for a Saturday. She claimed to be out of town on a work retreat. Lingerie purchases, gift shop receipts, even camping gear. Camping gear. Megan hated the outdoors. I once suggested a weekend hike, and she'd laughed like I'd told the funniest joke on earth. But here it was, $342 spent on tents, sleeping bags, and lanterns. Same weekend, Dylan had posted a photo from his family lake property. The more I looked, the clearer it became. It wasn't just an affair. It was a parallel life. One she'd built piece by piece while I sat in the same house, paying the bills, cooking dinner, and thinking everything was fine. I sat back on the floor, surrounded by a carpet of receipts. My chest felt heavy, but my mind was sharp. That's when I remembered something: Megan's obsession with documenting everything. Not just her own life, but our cats. She'd made an Instagram account for them a year ago, calling it a fun little content project. I pulled it up. There they were, Mr. Whiskers and Colonel Fuzz posed on Dylan's couch. The caption read, "Visiting Uncle Dylan's bachelor pad." The location tag matched his apartment. My jaw tightened. I'd helped him move into that apartment, I'd carried his furniture up 3 flights of stairs and joked about how much space he had. I'd brought a bottle of wine as a housewarming gift. Now it all felt like setting the stage for my own humiliation. I took screenshots, every one of them, and saved them into a new folder on my laptop. I labeled it Evidence, then renamed it Personal Documents, because old habits die hard. That's when my phone buzzed her text. "When are you getting home? We should talk." I typed back, "Already home. Take your time." Let her think I was calm. Let her think she still had control. I gathered everything and waited. The sound of keys in the door made my pulse quicken. Megan stepped inside, smiling like nothing was wrong, though her eyes flicked around the room as if gauging the atmosphere. "Hey," she said, trying for cheerful. "How was the trip?" "Boring," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "Same old conferences." I watched her closely. "How was your week? Book club go well?" There was the briefest flicker of hesitation. "Yeah," she said quickly. "We're reading this amazing memoir. Really inspiring." I smiled faintly. "Sounds great. What's it about?" She blinked. "It's about a woman traveling across America, finding herself." "Sounds profound," I said, turning back to my laptop. "You should tell me about it sometime." She hesitated, sensing something off, but couldn't quite place it. I could feel her eyes on me, studying, searching for cracks. I kept my face calm. My voice even. "Game on." Over the next few days, the house felt like a stage. Megan tried too hard extra affection. Exaggerated interest in my day. Random hugs while I made coffee. It was almost painful to watch. Guilt made people clumsy. She made pancakes one morning, a feat so rare it might as well have been a solar eclipse. "Missed you," she said, placing the burnt ones in front of me with a nervous smile. "Yeah," I said, drowning them in syrup. "Me too, especially the peace and quiet." Her laugh faltered. She wasn't sure if I was joking, and I didn't clarify. That's when it hit me. I didn't need to yell or accuse. Silence was stronger. Pretending to believe her lies while quietly dismantling them piece by piece. That was power. That night, when she was asleep, I opened a new document on my laptop. The blank page glowed in the dark like a fresh start. I typed the title, Project Phoenix. It wasn't revenge. Not yet. It was strategy rebuilding from the ashes of what she'd destroyed, but making sure the fire didn't go out until every lie was burned to dust. I listed everything I knew: dates, receipts, names, patterns. Then, in another column, I listed what I could use. Dylan's job in real estate, Megan's company and its strict ethics policies, the social circles they both relied on. I wasn't going to expose them violently or recklessly. That wasn't my style. I was a logistics manager. Details, precision, patience. If they thought they'd gotten away with it, they hadn't met the version of me that Call had created. I looked over at Megan, sleeping peacefully, and felt nothing. No love, no hate, just determination. Tomorrow, I'd start my plan. Quiet, calculated, irreversible. The next morning felt strangely ordinary sunlight through the blinds. The smell of coffee, the soft sound of Megan humming in the kitchen. Everything looked the same, but nothing was. I sat at the table, pretending to scroll through emails while she packed her work bag. "Big day?" I asked. She smiled automatically. "Yeah. Client présentation. Might be late tonight." Of course she would. I nodded, kissed her on the cheek, and watched her walk out the door. The moment her car disappeared down the street, I exhaled, stood up, and went to my office. It was time. I opened the Project Phoenix document I'd started the night before. The blinking cursor on that white screen almost looked eager. The plan had to be careful: no outbursts, no traceable moves. Dylan and Megan had both underestimated me for years. They saw me as predictable, harmless, the kind of man who forgave easily because it was easier than confrontation. That version of me was gone. Dylan worked in real estate. Same industry as mine, but at a competing firm. We'd shared clients, referrals, even a few side projects over the years. He was good at his job, but careless, too confident, too eager to impress, and that kind of overconfidence always left cracks. I started digging, not into anything private or illegal, just what was public. Property records, business filings, client testimonials. It's amazing what you can find if you know where to look. Within an hour, I founded a recently purchased lake cabin under an LLC registered in Wisconsin. Even though the property itself was in Minnesota, a technical mistake. Maybe, but to anyone who understood tax law or property compliance, it screamed problème. I leaned back in my chair, smiling slightly. I didn't need to create a scandal. I just needed to let the truth breathe. At 1000, I walked into the office like nothing was wrong. My coworkers nodded. Good morning. And I went through the motions, checking emails, reviewing shipments, pretending to care about warehouse efficiency charts. Then Renee showed up. Renee had been our legal assistant for years, and calling her assistant was underselling it. She was the one who kept our department running. Sharp, confident, and allergic to nonsense. She appeared at my door holding 2 coffees and a look that said she already knew something was up. You look like a man who's either planning a career change or a homicide, she said, handing me a cup. I smiled despite myself. Is it that obvious, Henry? You've been staring at the same spreadsheet for 20 minutes. You haven't typed a single thing. She sat down across from me, one eyebrow raised. So what's going on? Y hesitated. Part of me wanted to keep everything to myself. But Renee was smart, discreet, and most importantly, she hated Dylan. Something about a stolen stapler 6 months ago that she'd never forgiven. Hypothetically, I began. What would happen if someone found out that a friend's business had irregularities? Say, wrong state registration? Tax discrepancies? That kind of thing. She took a long sip of coffee, eyes narrowing in amusement. Are we talking about Dylan? My head snapped up. How did you? She shrugged. Please. I've seen the way he looks at Megan at company events. He practically glows when she's around. You were the only one who didn't notice. I exhaled slowly. Yeah, I notice now. Renee leaned forward. All business. So what's the goal here? You want scorched earth or strategic dismantling? What's the difference? Scorched earth burns everyone, including you. Strategic dismantling is cleaner. You take everything apart piece by piece, until he's standing in the ashes wondering how it all fell apart. You, meanwhile, walk away spotless. I smiled faintly. Then strategic dismantling it is. We spent the next hour going through Dylan's property records together. Renee spotted 3 issues I'd missed. Look here, she said, pointing at the screen. The LLC's registered in Wisconsin, but the mortgage lists a secondary signer, Jessica Hartley. My pulse quickened. His ex-girlfriend from college. Renee grinned. Well, that's either fraud or stupidity. Either way, it's messy, and if someone were to send a polite, anonymous notice to the Wisconsin and Minnesota revenue departments, that would start a very interesting paper trail. Would that be legal? I asked carefully. She tilted her head. It's legal to tell the truth. You're just being a concerned citizen who believes in proper reporting standards. She tapped her phone. I can even send the letters on my company letterhead. Looks more official that way. I stared at her, half in disbelief, half admiration. You're terrifying. I get that a lot. By the time we finished, we had a plan. Step 1, alert the state revenue departments about the irregularities. Step 2, let Dylan's biggest client, the Peterson Group, discover the same issues through casual conversation. Renee had a contact there who could nudge things along. Peterson Group is obsessive about ethics, she explained. They once dropped a developer over unpaid parking tickets. Imagine how they'll react to potential tax fraud. She stood up, smoothed her skirt, and smiled. This is going to be fun. That afternoon, while the office buzzed around me, I sent a few emails of my own. Harmless check-ins with old clients and colleagues, small talk about market trends, development projects, investment groups, casual phrases Like, I heard Peterson Group is doing great things lately, or I imagine they're careful about due diligence these days. Each message was a tiny spark. Nothing malicious, just information placed where it could catch fire. By the time I left work, I felt lighter. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. The kind of focus that comes when you stop trying to fix what's broken and start designing what comes next. That evening, Megan texted dinner tonight, maybe Thai food. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Sure. Set. 00. Sound good. Let her think everything was fine. Let her think I was softening. At the restaurant, she smiled too much. Talked too fast. I nodded. Asked about her work. Acted interested. She looked relieved, like she believed we were healing. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed under the table. A message from Renee Letters sent, Wisconsin and Minnesota notified. Peterson contact looped in. I looked up, smiled at Megan, and lifted my glass. To new beginnings, I said. She smiled back, clinking her glass against mine, completely unaware that hers was already half empty. The next morning, I woke early. Sunlight cut across the room, sharp and bright. I brewed my coffee and stood by the window watching Megan leave for work. She waved from the driveway, and I waved back. Once she was gone, he sat at my desk, opened Project Phoenix, and added a single line at the bottom of the page. Phase 1, complete. There would be no screaming, no chaos, no public drama, only quiet precision. Megan had built her deceit piece by piece. I'd dismantle it the same way, calmly, deliberately, until everything she and Dylan thought was stable turned to dust beneath their feet. They wanted excitement. They were about to get it. Monday started like any other day, emails. Coffee. The dull hum of office life, but beneath the surface, things were beginning to shift. I could feel it before I even saw it. At 8:30, Renee texted me letters delivered. Wisconsin and Minnesota acknowledged receipt. Peterson Group notified. Expect movement soon. I read it twice, then tucked my phone away. No emotion, just key at readiness. By 10:00, the first tremor hit. My phone buzzed with a call from Trevor Morrison, one of Dylan's biggest clients, a serious investor type who spoke in numbers and deadlines. Henry, he said, tone cautious. You still tight with Dylan? I leaned back in my chair. Playing casual. Yeah. We've worked on a few things. Why I'm hearing chatter about irregularities in one of his property deals. Something about taxes. Maybe misfiled paperwork. You know anything about that? I kept my voice even. Can't say I do. But if you're hearing concerns, you might want to take a closer look. Always safer to check before signing anything big. Trevor exhaled. That's what I thought. I'm hitting pause on our deal until I sort this out. Good call. I said, due diligence never hurts. When I hung up, I sat there for a minute, staring at my reflection in the black computer screen. There was a strange satisfaction in it, not joy. Not revenge exactly, but balance. For once, the scales were even. By lunch, Renee was leaning on my office doorway, grinning like she'd just won a bet. Guess who's trending on the local real estate boards? I raised an eyebrow. Dylan, she said, word spreading fast. Clients are pulling out left and right. And the Peterson Group. They're doing a full background check. It's only a matter of time before they see everything. I didn't have to ask how she knew. Renee had contacts everywhere. You're frighteningly efficient. I said, I prefer the term thorough. She replied, sipping her coffee. Oh, and I may have sent a discreet note to Megan's company, pointing out that her PR firm listed Dylan as a consultant without official disclosure. That's a big no-no in their world. I stared at her. Renee, she shrugged. Conflict of interest policies exist for a reason. Besides, you didn't ask me to do anything. I'm just an overachiever. She left humming to herself. By 4:00, the fallout was spreading faster than I'd imagined. I overheard coworkers whispering about that mess in Dylan's company near the break room. Someone said the Peterson Group had frozen all their funding with him, pending an investigation. I kept my head down, focused on work, pretending not to listen. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Dylan. Hey. Weird question. Have you heard anything about issues with my cabin property? Some client just bailed on me out of nowhere. Not sure what's going on. I let the message sit for a while before replying. That's strange. Probably just nerves. Big deals make people skittish. He answered almost instantly. Yeah. Maybe. Just feels like bad luck all at once. It happens. I wrote back. I could practically feel his unease radiating through the screen. Each short reply was like a mirror, showing him nothing but his own reflection. When I got home that evening, Megan's car was already in the driveway. She was sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, staring at the screen like it had betrayed her too. Rough day, I asked, setting my briefcase down. She looked up. Eyes red. You could say that HR called me in. Someone sent an anonymous complaint. They said Dylan might have had access to client files through me. They're investigating it as a breach of confidentiality. I kept my face neutral. Heart steady. That's serious. I know, she said, voice cracking. They've suspended me until further notice. I could lose my job. Henry, my whole career. I nodded slowly. I'm sorry to hear that. She stared at me, searching for something sympathy. Guilt. Maybe a hint that I knew more than I was saying. It's strange, she said carefully. Dylan's having problems too. Some investigation into his property deals, clients pulling out. It all happened at once. Doesn't that seem connected? I met her gaze evenly. What are the odds? Right. Her lips parted like she wanted to accuse me. But she stopped herself. Instead, she stood, muttered something about needing air, and went upstairs. When I heard the shower running, I texted Renee phase 1 successful. Both affected. She's panicking. Renee replied immediately. Perfect. Phase 2 tomorrow, Peterson meeting at 9. Expect fireworks. That night, Megan and I ate takeout in silence. She barely touched her food. Every few minutes, her phone buzzed, and she'd flinch. Probably Dylan. Probably begging her to fix what couldn't be fixed. Halfway through dinner, she finally said it. Henry, did you do this? I looked up slowly. Do what, all of it? She said, her voice trembling. The investigation. The clients pulling out. It's too much to be a coincidence. He tilted my head. You think I have that kind of power? I don't know what to think anymore. I smiled faintly. Then don't. It'll just make your head hurt. She stared at me, tears threatening but not falling. You've changed, she whispered. Good, I said quietly. Change is healthy. The next few days were a blur of controlled chaos. Renee kept feeding me updates like clockwork. Peterson Group has officially withdrawn their investment. Wisconsin Revenue Department opened a formal audit. Dylan's firm removed him from the partner roster. Every text was another domino hitting the next. At home, Megan's confidence disintegrated by the hour. She stopped styling her hair, stopped pretending everything was fine. When she spoke, her voice was small, fragile. They're talking about firing me, she said one night. Isrimered. I swear. Henry, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. It just spiraled. I folded my arms. Actions have consequences. You taught me that. Remember, I didn't mean to hurt you. She whispered. It just happened. I leaned forward, voice steady. Cheating isn't something that just happens. Megan, you made choice. Over and over. Now the universe is simply keeping score. She cried. I didn't comfort her. By the end of the week, Dylan's name was toxic in every professional circle that mattered. He'd lost his biggest clients. His cabin was under investigation. And whispers of fraud were spreading fast. Megan's suspension became termination official letter. Signed and sealed. When she told me, she looked hollow. They fired me, she said quietly, sitting on the edge of the bed, effective immediately. I'm sorry, I said, not looking up from my laptop. Are you? She asked. Voice breaking. Because you don't seem sorry. You seem fine. I closed the laptop and looked at her. I spent years carrying a marriage built on lies. Fine is a step up. Her face twisted with frustration. You're enjoying this? No, I said. I'm just done pretending I lost something worth keeping. She covered her face with her hands and sobbed. For a moment, I almost felt pity. Almost. Then I remembered Dylan's voice on the phone, her laugh in the background, and the feeling vanished. That night, I went to bed early and slept better than I had in months. In the morning, I opened Project Phoenix and added another line. Phase 2 complete. The house was silent. Megan stayed in the guest room now. Probably awake. Probably crying. I didn't go check. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was restoration. I wasn't destroying them. I was simply returning the favor piece by piece. Lie by lie. They'd taken my piece. I'd taken theirs. And the best part, I didn't need to raise my voice to do it. 2 weeks after Megan's breakdown in the living room, everything felt both eerily calm and entirely new. The chaos had burned itself out, leaving behind a strange, is still quiet. I'd moved her clothes into the guest room, not out of spite. Just practicality. She wasn't really living here anymore. She spent most nights at her sister's place. And when she did come by, she barely spoke. We were two ghosts sharing the same roof for different reasons, one haunted by guilt, the other by memory. For me, life was finally moving again. I started going to the gym in the mornings, actually going instead of paying for a membership I never used. There was something honest about the sound of metal weights clanging, the burn in my arms, the focus it demanded. Each rep felt like I was lifting the past off my shoulders. I lost 10 pounds, maybe more. People at work noticed. Renee said I looked dangerously calm, which I took as a compliment. Work itself felt easier too. Without the fog of suspicion and disappointment clouding everything, I could actually think. I handled projects faster, closed deals with confidence. Renee became both my closest ally and my quiet therapist. Over coffee, one Friday, she grinned and said, "You realize you've officially gone from heartbroken husband to strategic operator." "Right. Strategic operator," I repeated, smiling. I like that better than guy whose wife cheated with his best friend. Yeah, she said, sipping her latte. Much better on a résumé. She kept me updated on Dylan's slow, professional implosion. He's trying to sell the lake cabin. She told me one morning, no one's buying. The property's tied up in legal issues. And guess who's suing him? Jessica Hartley. I guessed. Renee laughed. Exactly. She found out he used her name on the mortgage without consent. She's furious. There's talk of fraud. I should have felt vindicated. Maybe even triumphant. But honestly, I just felt done. Dylan's ruin wasn't my obsession anymore. It was simply the natural consequence of his choices, of both their choices, and watching it unfold without lifting a finger was satisfying in a quiet, detached way. At home, Megan barely ate. She'd pick at her food, stare at her phone, sigh heavily, then excuse herself. The energy in the house was heavy, like grief without sympathy. I'd catch her watching me sometimes while I cooked or read on the couch. I think it confused her that I wasn't angry, wasn't yelling, wasn't begging her to explain. One evening, she finally broke the silence. "You seem happy," she said, standing in the kitchen doorway. Her tone wasn't curious, it was accusing, like my piece offended her. I was seasoning chicken. Focusing on the pan, I found a recipe I like. I said, lemon, garlic, a little rosemary. Smells good. Right? That's not what I mean. Her voice wavered. You're fine. I'm falling apart. And you're fine. I shrugged. What can I say? I've been eating better. She flinched. And I almost regretted the sarcasm. Almost. That night, she cried in the guest room. I heard her through the wall. Muffled and distant. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about how strange it was that pain could sound so familiar and still feel so far away. Dylan lost his job the following week. Renee texted me the update like she was reading stock prices. He's out, officially terminated. The firm released a statement about ethical concerns. Also, the IRS opened a preliminary review, I didn't respond right away. He said at me, "Disk," the message glowing on my screen, and thought about how one phone call, one careless moment at 100 a.m. had unraveled everything. It was poetic in a way. No dramatic. Not cinematic. Just precise. The kind of symmetry life rarely gives you. Later that day, I stopped by the coffee shop near the office. I saw a few colleagues talking in low voices by the counter. "Did you hear about Dylan?" one of them said. "Total meltdown. Lost everything. Some compliance nightmare. Nobody wants to touch his projects now." I stirred my coffee and kept walking. Let them talk. By the time I got home that night, Megan was waiting in the living room. Eyes red, hands trembling. She stood as I walked in. "They fired me," she said flatly. "Effective immediately. Breach of confidentiality. They said I violated my contract." I tried to explain, but they didn't care. "My reputation's gone. Henry, everyone knows." I set my keys down quietly. "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you?" she demanded. "Because you don't look sorry. You look satisfied." "I'm not satisfied," I said, "just not surprised." Her voice cracked. "You did this." I shook my head. "You did this. I just stopped protecting you from yourself." She stared at me, tears streaming down her face. "You've become cruel." "No," I said calmly. "Just clear." She sank to the floor, sobbing, whispering how she wished she could take it all back. For a second, something inside me softened. But then I remembered that night in Chicago, her laughter behind Dylan's voice, and the softness vanished. "I loved you," I said quietly. "I really did. But you traded something real for something temporary. And now you're learning what temporary feels like." I left her there and went upstairs. For the first time in years, I slept deeply. Weeks passed. Life rebuilt itself. Slow and steady. Megan packed up the last of her things and moved out completely. No goodbye note. No speech. Just absence. It was the cleanest ending I could have asked for. I focused on work. Renee and I launched a new project, a community redevelopment plan we'd been talking about for months. We turned an old warehouse into an art and tech hub for local youth. It gave me a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. Building something instead of fixing something broken, it felt right. I even adopted another cat, a black one with a white paw and an attitude that could cut glass. I named him Justice. It felt fitting. At night, the house was quiet but not empty. I'd cook, listen to music, sometimes just sit with the cats while they lounged near the window. Peace. Real peace. Has a sound. It's not silence, it's steadiness. One rainy afternoon months later, I ran into Megan at a coffee shop downtown. She looked smaller somehow. Thinner. Her confidence stripped down to raw humanity. She sat alone, staring into a cup she'd probably stopped tasting long ago. When she looked up and saw me, her eyes widened, then softened. "Henry," she said. Her voice was careful, like she wasn't sure how much space she was allowed to take. "Do you hate me?" I thought about it. Really thought. Once, I would have said yes without hesitation. But now, standing there with my coffee and my calm, I realized I didn't. "No," I said. "Hate takes effort." She nodded slowly, like that answer hurt more than anger would have. "I'm glad you're doing well," she said finally. "Thanks," I said, and I meant it. Not because I wanted her approval, but because I was truly, finally indifferent. The barista called my name, and I picked up my drink. As I left, Megan's reflection blurred in the glass door behind me. Outside, rain fell steadily. The kind that doesn't demand attention, it just washes things clean. I walked to my car, coffee in hand, a faint tune in my head. For the first time since that night in Chicago, the air felt light. The storm was over, and I was still standing. Some storms don't come to destroy you. They come to rinse away the foolishness, the trust you gave to the wrong people, the parts of you that forgot how to fight. And when the rain stops, you don't look back. You just drive home to peace, to clarity. to the quiet satisfaction of knowing you survived. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on what happened. Take care.